What is up, everyone? JD here. Got another big hand review today. Today we're going to be looking at the Arcane Cralwer. What we'll be doing today is going over knife specs. We're going to be doing some size comparisons, and then we're going to jump into the full review. So let's go ahead and get into it. The Cralwer has a 3.6-inch M390 Wharncliffe blade, 4.5-inch titanium handers with titanium pivot collars. 8 inches overall length, and claimed weight is 4.4 ounces. We'll grab the scale real quick just to verify that weight is what it's claimed to be. It feels about that. So 5 ounces. Claimed weight was 4.4, coming in at 5. All right, let's go ahead and get the scale out of the way and get into some size comparisons. First up, we're going to go ahead and bring out the AD 20.5. Going to be a little bit smaller than the Cralwer. You got some length on the blade and some length on the handle with the Cralwer. And we'll also bring out the Spyderco Shaman, which is also an 8-inch knife. So you'll see here you have a little bit less blade length and a little bit more handle length on the Shaman. So hopefully that's giving you an idea of how this blade is balanced. Well, the knife, not the blade. Let me get these out of the way. Grab the Benchmade Bug Out, another well-known everyday carry knife. You can see that's definitely smaller. And we'll bring out the SIG K320. This one's made by Hogue. This one is more similar in size. So you get a little bit closer in handle length, and you're getting very similar blade length, a little bit more out on the tip with the Cralwer, but very, very, very close. Let's go ahead and move these two out of the way, and we'll bring out a couple of budget knives for reference to help with size. First up, we're going to bring out the Kubey KU321 sub 3-inch knife for reference, and we'll bring out the Buck 110. Buck 110 is going to be longer and slimmer, and the Kubey is going to be roughly around the same girth. You get more handle towards the back end of the Cralwer, but very kind of similar chunky approaches to their ergos. So let's go ahead and get the Buck out of the way. We'll do some thickness profiles so that you can get an idea just how thin or thick the knife is. Hang on one second. Let me close them up. And there you go. You can see inside the pivot collars, it is identical to the Kubey, and the Demco obviously is going to be much thinner inside the pivot collar. Trying to make sure it's inside the pivot collar, much thinner. And we'll grab the Bug Out. And then one of my other more thick knives, just for extra measure, the Kubey, the SIG is actually like a vase shape. And you can see there, these are identical on this end. And then when you get to the thinner end, you can see it has that V shape to it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and jump into my thoughts and impressions. First and foremost, love the pocket clip on this. Works really well. It has a good spring to it. Nice diving board. And because it is elongated out here out on the tip, it catches the material really well and it goes in and out fine. I was worried about it catching here, but it actually doesn't. It has just enough material what kind of comes out of the jeans just fine. So for me, I haven't had it snag too much. Really attractive back spacer here. Goes the length of the knife, so there's no chance of you accidentally coming into the blade in any way, shape, or form. I've tried checking this here, and it is tucked in nicely. So I do like that as well. Pivot collar is well done. I think I would have liked like a light blue, personal preference, but the very light bronze looks good. It almost looks like it has a little hint of green in there, and I'm not quite sure if that's just the lighting, but you guys can let me know what you think as well. Now, as far as the ergos go, it's very neutral ergonomics. The corners look like they're cut very sharp, but when you go to put them in hand, they're actually knocked down just enough for this to be very comfortable in hand. I am able to get all 4 fingers on the knife, and because of course it is long and pointy on both ends on the Cralwer, it does stick out just a little bit, so you have the option to kind of move around and change your ergos a little bit. You can move back and up. As far as being large hand friendly, it does work, but it is a little bit of a tighter fit. I obviously go out further on the tip because my hand is larger, but the jimping works just fine, and it really is great for those utility cuts, for the push cuts. Really work nicely on here. You have a nice flat grind. I think it would have been a little bit cooler to have a hollow grind on this blade, kind of like what you see on the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. But the flat ground is nice, and it gets fairly thin behind the edge. It is a little bit more of a robust blade. It has a little bit more of a thicker geometry. And because it's not as tall of a flat grind, it is just a little bit thicker. It cuts good, goes through material good, but just things that I've noticed with this one. You do have milling on the inside to try to reduce some of the weight. Arcane design logo on the inside of the backspacer there. You have the M390 blade steel stamped on the flipper tab, and you have good access to the lock bar. It's a little tight, again, for bigger hands, a little tighter to get in there, but you can get in there just fine. I would give the lock bar like a medium rating as far as the tension. It is not light, but it is not heavy like it was on the Abyss. The Abyss, which is made by Riot, this one's made by Bestech. The Abyss had a very heavy stout detent on it. It actually almost hurt to reverse flick it, where this one is much better as far as the tuning. Very low profile flipper tab. You do have jimping on the top for the light switch, and you have the little curvature cut out here, which is nice for the light switch as well, or for ramping up the thumb if you like holding it in that position. It's very uncomfortable for me. I'm not quite sure that's what it's intended for. For me, I really think it's really intended for the light switch for the flipper tab. You do get pretty close to the blade's edge. You have an okay plunge lock. It definitely drops down sharper, and it's definitely going to give you more. Let me grab a pen. It stops right, trying to get as pointy as I can, right there. So your plunge ground is back behind there, and I would actually say that's a really good sharpening choil. I would say it's better than okay. It's definitely really good. Now, the looks on this thing, I think, are an acquired taste. I really think it is super cool looking. A couple little things that I would have thought might be a little better, I think just coming, I don't know, because then it looks kind of squared off. I just feel like this secondary swedge here kind of throws me off a little bit. I think it might have been better if it was a little bit more lower profile, and that part wasn't there, like maybe coming out to the tip but not having this part here. That swedge looks a little weird, but having said that, this is very angular with everything that's been done on here, so it does kind of match the theme of it. But I would have either liked to have had the flat grind going up a little bit further. Even if it were to stop, I would have liked it to come all the way up to that line, stopping at the line and bringing it up a little bit to get a little bit more cutting geometry, a little bit better cutting geometry there. I think it would have gone a long way with folks. Or you could have just had them make it a hollow grind, which I know could have driven the cost of the knife up. But I feel like if Spyderco can do it on that Yojimbo 2 with that little bit of surface, certainly could here. Action is really smooth. It is not a guillotine, but it definitely, with the way the detent is tuned, is very smooth dropping shut, and it got smoother from where I first picked it up. It has smoothed out a good deal. When I first got it, it wasn't quite that smooth. It was more like 3 shakes instead of 2, or you can do just one, fairly medium drop and it'll close. Knife has remained centered. I have not had the pivot back out any at all. Very minimal Arcane logo, Cralwer logo on here. The satin finish, I think, is really well done. Any satin finish is going to be a Frignet prick magnet, but again, it is nice and smooth, which I think helps this go through the material a little bit better. And also, I think it gives a little bit better action because you don't have that break-in period that you do with the coated blade. All in all, I think it's a very cool knife. If you're looking for something unique and different that's still going to function very well and fits in the pocket pretty well, this is definitely a very interesting knife to look at. Alternative recommendations, because with Arcane, when the knife is gone, it's gone. Now, that's not to say he might not bring it later in different blade steels or colorways, etc., but when that current run is out, it's gone. So alternative recommendations, I love the Wee Roxy. If you like a warning, this is one that it's not going to give you as much cutting edge, but it's going to give you better geometry. The flat grind goes up higher. You're going to get really nice ergonomics. The reason I pulled it back so far is because actually you have that forward finger choil, so you're getting just as much or maybe even more handle edge, but not quite as much cutting geometry. If you don't really like the Wii or you don't love a full-on warnie, I will again recommend the AD 20.5. It's a little bit more of a friendly EDC. These are both Chinese manufacturers. The AD 20.5 is going to get you to Taiwan, which is really close to being like a US manufacturer, really good quality, but it's not a Chinese made knife. Last one that I would recommend, if you definitely don't like the looks of the Arcane design, but you like something that's going to give you that similar type of performance, it is not a Wharncliffe, but the Manix 2 is going to give you that kind of edgy style with extremely good ergos, and this one here is a made in USA knife. Far cheaper, not titanium. I'm thinking if you're looking at that, you're not even thinking about the Manix 2, but I do like this recommendation because if you like something that has that low down tip, good cutting geometry, and has just really melt in hand ergonomics, the lightweight even over top of the G10, I am just blown away by how much I actually like the Manix 2, which is the only reason I made that recommendation here today. Otherwise, I would say go ahead and get you a Cralwer, especially if you can still get a hold of them. They may not be available at the time of this video, or they may be ramping up for other colorways, steel combinations. They may make revisions. I'd love to see them make that a hollow ground. That would be really, really cool. But Best Tech has done a fantastic job with this knife. Really cool, very impressive. I don't think that I missed anything as far as action, lock bar access, ceramic bearings are in the pivot. Stop pin is shouldered. You can see it's shouldered both open and closed. So you see you have more shouldering open and a little bit of shouldering when it's closed. It's locked in nice and tight. Detent on this is solid, not too bad, not too strong, not light at all. So really good job on Best Tech on the Cralwer, and such a cool design. So check out Arcane Designs. If you don't like the Cralwer, you might like the Abyss. If you don't like the Abyss, he has a couple other models out there, and he does a really good job with that outer space alien type of design. It's just, it looks like something out of a sci-fi movie, and I just really think it was cool. I'm so glad that I checked it out. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, leave a like. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Make sure your notification bells are turned on. If you're already a subscriber, thanks for the continued support. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought about this knife. Do you have a Cralwer? What do you think about it? Do you have any other of the Arcane Design models? Or do you have something similar to this that you like, that you think is really cool and interesting as an alternative to the Cralwer? Thanks for tuning in. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. And until next time, peace.